kids. Love them. Church is in good hands. Hey folks, if you're visiting with us this morning, it's wonderful to have you. We love having visitors. We've dispensed with the Bible study. Hope that you will stay and have a cup of tea, a cup of coffee with us afterwards. We've moved it from the normal place because when we started setting up this morning, it was raining. And so it's been moved under cover over there, a little bit squashed, but it doesn't look like it's raining too much. We'll be able to get a cup and just have some good old fellowship together. Folks, I just, last week I was up, Don and I were up in Rietfontein doing some teaching. There was an amazing weekend, but we had some other people running the sound and our computers, and I missed my guys. So Rory, thank you. Matthew, thank you. Dale, thank you. And all our other tech guys. Of course, they just know the way that I work and what to do. And so they just absolutely amazing. The guys did a great job up there, but I'm telling you what, when you get to work with your own team, you guys are just amazing, and I'm grateful for you. Folks, wasn't it horrendous this week to hear about Charlie Kirk? For those of you who don't know him, this 31-year-old man sold out to Jesus, conservative, big into family, children, marriage, spoke against this woke society that has become a norm in many areas. He was murdered. He was shot from a distance and killed. And but God can do all things in all situations. All things work together for good. And I think it's just going to create a backlash, and I'm just really do pray that great good can come out of this detestable evil. So we're in a series that I started 2 weeks ago called Pre-Deciding. And we looked in week number 1 that David pre-decided intimacy with God. If you remember, we said that God said of David, he is a man after my own heart. And David messed up like we all do. But you know what? He grew from that, and he became a person after his very own heart. And so this morning I want to move on, and we're going to be look at keys to overcoming temptation, and we're going to look at 3 keys to overcoming temptation. But let me start by saying this. Let's use this preface. I don't know about you, but I don't know anyone ever who has ever said, in 2 years, I plan to be fat. No one ever said that, eh? No one has ever said to me, in 3 years' time, I've got this plan. I want to be bankrupt. No one has ever said, in like 5 years' time, this is my plan. I want to be hooked on pornography. No one has ever said, this is my plan to become an alcoholic. I'd like to wreck my marriage. Craig, thank you so much. The problem is, we don't plan those things, but we don't plan not to do those things. And that's why so many people end up doing stupid things because they didn't plan not to do those things. So we're in a series called Pre-Decide, and we're looking at the power of our decisions, how important it is to decide beforehand so we don't land up in these situations. Let's say this quite categorically up front. The quality of your decisions determines the quality of your life. The quality of your decisions determines the quality of your life. And every one of us can look back on our lives and say, that was a dumb decision. What was I? And so we land up with the consequences of those decisions. And so we can also categorically state, we make our decisions, and then our decisions make us. We make our decisions, and then our decisions make us. Now, every one of us has got great intentions. You, like me, we are very good with our great intentions, but we're not very good decision makers. And that's why we're talking about pre-deciding in this series. Here's a great concept I want you to think about. When faced with this situation, I have pre-decided to do that. When faced with this situation, I have pre-decided. I've already decided I'm not going to make a decision on the spot. I've pre-decided to do this. Let me pan this out for you. Instead of waiting for a specific moment when our emotions could lead us astray, we pre-decided this is the way I'm going to act or think when this thing comes up in my life. Now, God calls himself, I'm the great I am. And using the I am statements, we can pre-decide what to do in situations when they arrive. For instance, we can say, I'm consistent. I won't just break from that. I am devoted. I am generous. I am faithful. I am a finisher. These statements are based on values. What you want to be for the rest of your life determines on the values you have pre-decided on. And here it is. When our values are clear, our decisions are easier. When you are sold out to Jesus and your values as a Christian, they are crystal clear. It makes the decisions you come later in your life. So, how many of you have ever given into temptation and regretted it? How many of you have ever given into temptation and regretted it? All of us, eh? Every single one of us. That's kind of the nature in life. And why did you give into temptation? Well, chances are you just weren't ready when the temptation faced you. You hadn't pre-decided, well, this thing pops up in my life. This is the way that I am going to decide. You were not prepared. And Scripture tells us over and over again that we need to be prepared. In fact, I'm just thinking about, isn't that the Boy Scout motto? Be prepared. Be prepared for every situation. And I mean, this is what Scripture, that's Scripture. Be prepared. 1 Corinthians chapter 16 and verse 13. Be on your guard. Stand firm in the faith. Be courageous. Be strong. Look what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 26 and verse 41. Watch and pray, so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, the intentions are there, but the flesh is incredibly weak. Our flesh is incredibly weak. Your spirit is willing, but the flesh, man, my flesh, it's pitifully weak, and we'll talk about some of those things in a while. So today we're going to talk about pre-deciding, but why do we need to pre-decide? Why do we need to be ready? Two reasons. Number one, it's because the devil is coming for you. The devil is coming for you. You need to know this morning, folks, the devil is not just out there. He's not just in a distance. He's not passive. The devil is actively looking to engage with Christians so they have a meltdown. And he wants them to land up in a dishonoring situations. The devil, his mission is to kill and destroy and have you lose your salvation. 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. Be sober-minded. Be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, he prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. The devil knows your weak spots. He knows my weak spots. He is actively engaged in trying to destroy your life. Look what Paul said to the church in Corinth. I wrote to you to see if you would stand the test, because you will be tempted, and be obedient in everything, in order that Satan might not outwit us, for we are not unaware of his schemes. Christians understand we are not unaware of his schemes. The devil went after Jesus. When Jesus, just after his baptism, went out into the desert, he was tempted. Remember the devil? He was hungry. The devil came after him. Satan said to him, do this and do that. I will do this and that for you. Satan has got nothing to offer us as Christians. The devil has studied you. He knows where you are weak. He knows where you are vulnerable. Number one, the second thing, and we'll talk about, but number one, because the devil is coming for you. Number two, you're not as strong as you think. Every one of us should really recognize we absolutely is not as strong as you think. 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 12. So, if you think you stand firm, be careful that you do not fall. I mean, it's incredibly how weak we are. You know, studies have shown that people way overestimate the ability to stand against temptation. Tomorrow, you start your diet, all right? And so Tuesday, you rock up to the office. You did great for a day. Discover somebody in the office has a birthday party. And so on your way to the copy machine, you pass the staff room, and there's this huge chocolate cake there. But thank goodness you're not into chocolate cake. But on your way back from the copy machine, oh, those little milk tarts are just hanging around. Now, you start having a conversation in your head. You love milk tarts. And after all, it wasn't a big milk tart like it was those little ones. And, I mean, would one little milk tart like that affect your diet? Of course not. Of course not. But at the end of the day, you've discovered you've had 4 of those little milk tarts. That's the way we're all just incredibly weak. I mean, no one has ever been on one diet in their life. This is a diet after diet after diet. Those of us who just to struggle with the ever increasing girth of our bodies. Our intentions are unbelievable. But we are incredibly weak in the flesh. And we can talk about in other areas of our lives, and we will do so in a short while. Also, fighting temptation, it's draining. It's draining. Our willpower runs out. It wanes. You know, that first day of dieting, it's always the easiest. That's the easiest. And then 2, they're like, again, second week, and the willpower starts to run out. And it happens in other areas of our lives. I mean, how many of you work with crazy people? There's someone at the office who's a little, and you would just love to say something. You just love to. You think God has gifted you to say something to this person. You just let them know that they're a little mull in the corp. But you know what? You resist it, and you resist it, and say something else, or resist it, and you resist it all day. You get home, and you let your spouse have it. Now, your spouse has had to endure your mouth because something happened at the office. I mean, the intention is great, but we are so weak in the flesh. So, this morning we're going to talk in the time left about 3 ways we fight temptation. I'm going to say move the line, magnify the cost, and plan your escape. Number one, we need to pre-decide to move the line. I just wish I had brought some tape there. I could have Oh, this is amazing, Nathan. You just read my mind. In fact, Nathan said, I don't move away from the microphone. I wonder if I can ask you to put a line down the middle of that carpet there from the center line. I want us that line. Great job. Great job. Nathan's home from university. He goes back this week, and apart from being incredibly handsome, he's also very good at putting tape down on the car. So, folks, I want this line to represent, and for those of you who watch online, you probably can't see, but we put a piece of tape down there, and I want you to say the other side of the line represents sin, and this side of the line represents our God-fearing, God-honoring lives. So when we step over the line, we say, that's wrong. That is sin. But the problem is, as Christians, this is the mistake we make. We ask ourselves, how close to the line can I go? How close to the line can I go? Let me tell you what, for those of you who've been teenagers, and I think a lot of people have been teenagers here, you start your dating life, you're God-honoring, you're God-fearing, you want to honor the Lord with all your relationships, but you ask this question, how far to the line can I go before I step over that line and God honoring? And that is the wrong thing to do. We should be asking, we should be moving the line back. So Nathan, please can I ask you to come put a line over here. Some of you might remember a series on boundaries that I preached some years back. And we noticed this. A boundary is an area you set for yourself. It's back from the line. It's back from the line. How many of you ever noticed this? Those Armco barriers that we see along our highways, along our roads, that barrier where it's those wooden poles or sometimes concrete poles and that steel wavy barrier there. It's never put on the edge. It's away from the edge. It's away from the edge. Every barrier I ever know, you can step over there and you can probably get a meter or two before you can look over into the abyss. Because they know, the people who've studied traffic know, let's keep the vehicles away from the edge. Can you imagine if you go all the way to the line, if you mess up, you've gone. But if we bring the line back, it can save us in many situations. And that's, we need to pre-decide, move the line, move the line. Don and I had the pleasure of meeting Don's cousin in Pretoria, Renee, lovely lady. She's a pilot. She's an instructor. She teaches people to fly jets, these Lear jets and Hawks and Citations and all that. They're a very skilled lady. And I can't begin to imagine she's ever said to a trainee pilot, now when you fuel up that plane for your journey, you just put enough fuel in it. So as you land, you're on fumes. Your fuel is finished. We don't do that. We pre-decide, hey, we don't go to the line. The years I used to be in paragliding, I never ever said, I wonder how close I can get to those power lines down there. You know, I wonder how close I can get to the tower before killing myself. But folks, we do this in other areas of our lives. We go too close to the line in terms of our relationships and those type of things. You know, and it's in all areas of our life. You know, let me give you some examples. You know, with Temu, you've probably bought a lot of stuff that you don't need there because you had nothing else to do. So you're drifting along on Temu. You don't need anything. You can't afford anything. Oh, but you stumbled on this deal of a lifetime. You don't need that thing. You'll never use that thing. But it was so cheap, you've got to get it, you know. And then you've got to find a place to put it in your house because, this is the deal, you can't let up. And before you know it, you can't keep track of all your Temu orders, what has arrived and what hasn't arrived. And, you know, we do this with Facebook. Some of you know you spend way too much time on Facebook. It's not God-honoring time. And when you look at the stats that you can find, you spend 2 or 3 hours per day on Facebook. This is ridiculous. Wasting time. That's not God-honoring. So what you got to do, move the line. Say, yeah, I will do Facebook. I'm going to move the line back and I will limit my time on Facebook, what I buy on Temu, whatever, to a certain thing. You know, the problem is these people have all got our algorithms, haven't they? You know what an algorithm? They know what you look for. They know what your weakness is for, whether it's handbags or shoes or tools or whatever. So every time you open up, there's that thing. They're just whacking you with those things all the time. And it seems like that's why that guy that shot Charlie Kirk, his dad was saying, you know, because when you go to us and you look for certain things, when you look for anti-Christian, anti-family, anti-Trump or whatever, all those sites, and they will feed it to you. They will feed it right down your throat. And before, that's the only thing that you ever see. So you develop this negative bias. We need to move the line as Christians. Psalm 16 and verse 6, the boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Surely I have a delightful inheritance. The boundary lines. I've brought myself back from the edge. If I'm going to struggle with alcohol or with lustful thoughts or gambling, I'm set myself boundaries. I'm bringing them back from the edge so that I can live a God-honoring life. Number one, move the line. Everybody say move the line. Move the line. Number two, magnify the cost. Magnify the cost. Anytime I'm tempted to give into temptation, there is always a risk. The devil knows where I am weak. And we need to train ourselves to ask the question, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? We need to build in redundancy into our lives. We need to question ourselves and say, what if the worst case scenario comes true? What if the worst case scenario comes true? Did I pre-decide how I'm going to act in that situation? We know, we've already said, we are weaker than we think. We're much weaker than we think. And we know that the devil is stronger than we could ever begin to imagine. What could go wrong? Well, let's decide I have an affair. God ever forbid. What is the worst case scenario? Folks, I'll just lose my reputation like that. I would lose my wife, the love of my life, my greatest friend, just like that. Lose my job. None of you would ever respect me again. I would compromise the relationship that I have with my children, my daughters-in-law, my grandchildren. It would mess up my life so badly. Numbers chapter 32 and verse 23. If you cross that line, you will be sinning against the Lord, and you may be sure that your sin will find you out. Don't ever convince yourself like the devil was trying. No one will know. No one will know. Ask yourself the question, what's the worst thing that could happen, and magnify that cost. And you pre-decide what to do. What's the worst case scenario if we get into those situations? 5 minutes of sin for anyone could wreck a lifetime of pursuing Jesus. It could wreck marriages. Just allow that little entry for Satan in to get into our lives, and then that's it. We move the line. I will never put myself in a situation ever that I could compromise my relationship with my wife. I'm going to magnify the cost. Finally this morning, number one, we said, move the line. Number two, magnify the cost. And number three, plan your escape. Plan your escape. How will you get out of any situation where you are tempted to step over the line into sin? Well, the best example, folks, of this is in the Old Testament is a guy by the name of Joseph. And I think Joseph and I mean, we like this. I mean, just read this passage of Scripture and you'll just see I'm exactly the same as Joseph. Genesis chapter 39, verse 6 to 7. Genesis 39. Joseph was very handsome. Okay. And he was a well-built young man. That's me. And Potiphar's wife was soon began to look at him lustfully. Come and sleep with me, she demanded. Imagine how easy it would have been to Joseph just to give in to that. I mean, after all, this is not his homeland. His family are away. His brothers sold him into the slavery. This is not his homeland. This is not his people. And by the way, this Potiphar's wife, she's the most famous cougar in the land. This would have been a big catch for him. He could have boasted with the boys around the bra at the end of the day. Joseph could have said, you know what, I'm really unhappy with God. I'm like, of all the brothers, I'm the one that loved the Lord the most. And guess what he did? He allowed them to throw me in a pit, got sold into slavery. I'm not even with my family anymore. Joseph could have been angry with God and said, what the heck? Why? It doesn't make any difference. He could have said, God has let me down, and because God has let me down, I'm just going to do whatever I want to do. I'm going to put Joseph first for a change. I want to say this to you. Look at your screens. Don't ever allow disappointments to justify your disobedience. Don't ever allow disappointments to justify your disobedience. Well, my spouse is not meeting my needs, whatever, things are messed up at work, the family all hates me, everybody's against me, I'm the black sheep of the family. So, and then all of a sudden we justify our disobedience. Joseph had pre-decided to honor God. Love that. That's the rest of his life. Joseph had pre-decided. Doesn't matter what situation I am, where I am in the world, don't know whatever's happening in my life, Joseph had pre-decided to honor God. And she came on to him. And he said, no deal. This was not a one-time event. Day after day, she was on to Joseph. She was hitting on him. And you know what? She got to just warn him out. But he resisted every single day. It's the same for you and I. Folks, temptation is not a one-time thing. It's a thing that we engage in every single day of our lives. That we could step over the edge. Whether it's gambling, whether it's infidelity, fornication, adultery, alcohol, the way we use language, we could easily step over. And so we've got to pre-decide what we need to do. Now, because he knows what he's going to do on a daily basis, he also pre-decided his escape. You might think Joseph was young and strong, but being young and strong is not enough. We need to be ready. We need to be smart. And he was smart enough to pre-plan his escape. When she grabbed him, this is what happened. Read with me Genesis chapter 39 and verse 12. She caught him by his cloak and said, come to bed with me. But he left his cloak in her hand and he ran out of the house. He knew it was better to have a good name than a good coat. Your name, it takes a lifetime to develop a great name. People respect you, but you can destroy your name in seconds. It doesn't take minutes to destroy your name. I'm going to let go of that which can hold me down, as Joseph is saying, and destroy my reputation, alienate me from God and from my family. My name is more important than my possessions. I'm not strong enough to resist it, so I will run from it. I will run from it. Look at this the scripture, 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 13. And God is faithful. God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond that which you are able, than what you can be. But when you are tempted, he will also provide a way so that you can endure it. Folks, you need to know this morning. No temptation will come your way from which there is no escape. You will never get in a situation where you'll be able to say, I had no other option. I mean, after all, this is Potiphar's wife. I'm just a lowly employee. God will never allow you to be tempted beyond which there is a way of escape. And this applies to every situation, whether it's adultery or fornication, whether it's gambling, well, I had no option, or alcohol, well, I was at the party and it was just all this free booze. God, they invited me to the wedding and it was an open bar and just, God will never allow you to be in a situation, where there's no escape. Pornography, pills, whatever. In conclusion, let's say this. We need to pre-decide how we're going to act in any given situation. Why? Because no one plans to screw up their life. But the problem is, few people plan not to. And that's why we land up in situations like we do. Today, I would really like you to be incredibly honest with yourself and say, we all have our weaknesses. What is your weakness? Where's the area in your life that you're most likely to cave in and destroy? And then say to myself, I'm going to move the line. I'm going to count the cost. If I do go that way, what would happen to me, my relationship with God, my family, my children, my church, my community, my job? Count the cost. And then we need to pre-decide our escape. If I do get invited, the guys are all going down to the casino and they're all going gambling. I said, listen, you guys go in. I'm not going in there. I'm going to sit outside you and I'm just going to order myself a meal or a cold drink or whatever. You guys go ahead. I know that was the planned thing, with a bachelor's party, whatever. I'm backing off. I'm moving the line. What stops us from pre-deciding that? Is it our pride? Or are you just justifying your sin because you're mad at God? Are you justifying your sin because you just your finances are so compromised, you don't know what else to do, so you've just gone belly up? Do you sometimes lie so it can make you look better? Are you overcritical? Do sometimes you carry unforgiveness in your heart? What about lust? Do you look at things or maybe act in a way that is dishonoring to God? Maybe you find yourself compromising when you're with that group of friends. Can I ask you this morning, be ready. Pre-decide how you're going to act in your life so you can put some distance between yourself and their temptation where you would go over the edge. So let me remind you this morning, the devil is coming for you. The devil is coming for you. You need to be ready. Pre-decide. Pre-decide how you're going to work your marriage, train up your children. And so we say once again, finally before I share a scripture with you, move the line. Don't go to the edge. Move the line back off from the edge. Number 2, magnify the cost. Think about, what if I go over the edge, what's this going to do to my life? And number 3, plan your escape. Plan how you're going to get out of the way. Joseph, thank you for showing us. Well, some situations you just have to run from. And even if it costs you your coat or your clothing. Psalm 37, verse 5 to 7, our final passage of scripture this morning. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in him, and he will do this. You cannot do it yourself. He will make you right, make your righteous reward shine like the dawn, and your vindication like the noonday sun. Let's stand together.